The following program may contain subject matter and language suitable for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
And welcome back to episode 1 of season 7 of The Meltdown. My name is Norm.
And my name is Jeff.
And we are your co-hosts because we're hosting together.
Yes.
So we're each taking, some responsibility in the host arena. Mm-hmm. And today's topic is censorship versus freedom. So, I mean, can you have both? That's the big question for me. Can you have both? Can you have censorship and still have freedom? And is there such a thing as good censorship and bad censorship? We're going to explore that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, but it's a very general question. I think it really comes down to specific examples. I'm certainly not about censoring art, for example.
No.
You know, but again, that's very general. Well, what specific piece of art are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Right. And what constitutes art? That's the other thing too. I mean, there's so many. It's so vague. Eh?
Yeah.
Like when it's out there.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have some fun facts for you as well as some stupidness. And Lou Saracino joins us for his take on censorship in just a short while. Jeff, why don't you, since this is a brand new season, don't you take us off to the very first segment of the show? One time only. This is your shot.
All right. It's now time for some Meltdown fun facts.
So we're going to share something from the Huffington Post, and this is from an article called "Censorship is Not All Bad." Okay? Mm-hmm. It's kind of what I was alluding to at the beginning of the show. Can you have good censorship? Yeah. Censorship is not all bad. Free speech idealists argue that the solution to bad speech, which is misinformation, lies, abusive language, etc., is not censorship, but more speech. But bad speech can often, and often does, drown out the good. A classic form of bad speech is hate speech. Jeremy Waldron, a law professor at the New York University School of Law, describes it this way. Its aim is to compromise the dignity of those at whom it is targeted, both in their own eyes and in the eyes of other members of society. And it sets out to make the establishment and upholding of their dignity much more difficult. It aims to besmirch the basics of their reputation by associating ascriptive characteristics like ethnicity or race or religion with conduct or attributes that should disqualify someone from being treated as a member of society in good standing. Thus, hate speech is really anti-speech because it aims to shut down the speech of others. And in the United States, hate speech has shut down the speech of minorities and women for hundreds of years. Defenders of hate speech often disguise it as pride, states' rights, or religious freedom. But we are mistaken to treat anti-speech as if it were normal speech, deserving of protection. We can and should be intolerant of intolerance. The question, therefore, is not whether we ought to have constraints on speech, but what kind of constraints. Censorship is an institutional constraint. When we hear the word censorship, we often imagine a banned book. For example, schools and libraries removing the book. This is censorship at the point of reception. Protests erupt. Demand for the banned book goes up. Censorship happens more frequently at the point of distribution than it does at the point of reception, such as an institution refusing to distribute a speech or a text through its channels. This type of censorship rarely leads to protest because outsiders rarely hear about it. The most common form of censorship is self-censorship, or censorship at the point of production, which means you have internalized the censor's rules and decided to abide by them of your own volition. Perhaps you learn that the benefits of compliance outweigh the cost of resistance, or you rationalize that you can't win anyway. We may self-censor for good reasons, such as politeness, But sometimes we self-censor because we see someone else made into a negative example and we fear it could happen to us. Okay, Jeff, take us to our next segment. One shot.
All right.
This is it.
Okay. It's time for a Meltdown Minute with Lou.
This week, Norm and Jeff have been talking to you guys about censorship, and I'll tell you the truth, I'm kind of two minds, right? Because there's a part of me that thinks ideas are important, they shouldn't be censored, they should be up for debate, and everybody can chat about them. Because the fact of the matter is that when you hear a bad idea, that's how you kind of figure that out, right? That's when you hear an idea like fascism, and you go, yeah, that's probably not very good for most people. You know what I'm saying? What's fascinating to me about censorship, folks, is the idea that somebody else is choosing what I get to see. And I'm also fascinated by the idea at what specifically gets censored in certain movies. And of course, by certain movies, I mean porn. If you're going to put a black bar on a guy's junk, you're not fooling anybody. You know what I mean? Whether I'm watching a penis or a solid black bar going in and out of something, I can piece it together. You know what I mean? I'm from the 80s. That's the only way we learned sex, folks. Don't take that away from me.
Thank you, Lou. And now it's time for some Meltdown Stupidness.
All right, for our Meltdown Stupidness today, we're going to list you 10 beloved children's books banned for stupid reasons. All right?
All right.
The first one's called The Rabbit's Wedding. Let me know if you're familiar with any of these books. I've heard of a few of them.
Okay.
Written by Garth Williams, a man best known for his illustration in Charlotte's Web, 1958's The Rabbit's Wedding seems a simple story about two rabbits that enjoy each other's company. However, one of the rabbits is white and the other is black. Literally, white and black. So many considered the book an allegory for interracial relationships. When asked about it, Williams stated that his book has no political significance. Newspapers denounced the book for brainwashing readers into accepting integration. Alabama made state-run libraries bury the book in special reserve shelves, attracting mass coverage from other papers that ridiculed the state's decision. In one local library, the book became so popular that librarians had to put it on a waiting list. So you know what? And that's the funny thing, right? Sometimes these people ban books. You make a big deal about something, folks, it's going to become an even bigger deal than it is already. Yeah. And here's a prime example, right? Because everybody hears, oh, did you hear they banned that book? Let's go get that book, right?
Yeah, it's that sort of goes the old adage, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly, banning something definitely makes people want to see it. I
of
think,
course.
or want to read it, whatever the case may be.
I know. People have been telling me for years, don't watch, that's a horrible porn film. Well, I got to watch it now. You understand, eh, Jeff?
I don't know.
Okay. Here's our second book, In the Night Kitchen. From the author who brought us the frequently challenged Where the Wild Things Are came 1970's In the Night Kitchen, which follows the surreal dreams of 3-year-old Mickey. With no political overtones or hidden messages, it would seem the book had no reason to be challenged. However, in one small instance during the dream, Mickey is naked, with full genitalia in view. The book's controversy painted author Maurice Sendak, who insisted there was nothing wrong with the illustrations. He defended the nudity by reasoning that if Mickey was going to be playing in dough or milk, it made sense for him to be nude because people don't swim fully dressed. Yet the defense had its flaws. Some people felt the phallic milk bottle Mickey swims in hints that the book is really a story about masturbation. Well, there you go.
Yeah. That reminds me, sorry, there's another Warner Brothers fact, but it does have to do with what you just said.
Okay.
Somewhat similar. When Tweety was originally created by Robert Clampett, as I'm sure I mentioned in other episodes, Tweety and Sylvester were created separately. Two different directors for Israeli created Sylvester. Anyways, the first Tweety cartoon, he was more sort of pinkish white. He wasn't the yellow that most people would remember.
Okay.
And he was actually, Robert Clampett was actually told, I don't know by whom exactly, but you've got to change the color of Tweety because it looks too much like a naked baby. And in fact, Tweety was based on a picture of Robert Clampett when he was a baby that his mother always had displayed in their house. He was on a rug. He was a naked baby, Robert Clampett. And so Tweety was actually modeled after that. And as I say, Robert Clampett was told to actually change the color so it looked more like a bird.
Right.
So there's a sort of a sense of censorship.
I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that bonus fact, Jeff. It's always nice and unexpected that you just come up with these things, especially when it concerns animation. Our third book, Harriet the Spy, a very popular book.
Yeah.
While some remembering this story for the Nickelodeon movie starring Michelle Trachtenberg, Harriet the Spy was a novel first, written in 1964. The book covers the misadventures of a young girl growing up on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, pretending to be a spy with her notebook filled to the brim with details about the people in her neighborhood. Harriet was extremely popular with young girls. Critics of the book, including those who attempted to ban it, complained that Harriet was a terrible role model for children. They said the story would teach children to lie, gossip, and curse, as though any child doesn't do those things anyway. Some people also felt the book promoted a gay lifestyle, though it said nothing about Harriet's orientation, because author Louise Fitzhugh was gay and Harriet was a tomboy. So, that's a book everyone's heard of, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Here's one called And Tango Makes Three. Based on the true story of two male penguins who hatched another couple's egg in Central Park Zoo in 1999, And Tango Makes Three follows the family's adventures after their chick Tango's birth. The book also examines the details of the parents' relationship, which led zookeepers to give them an egg of their own to raise. For example, they were seen bowing to each other, which is an act traditionally seen among male-female penguin couples. Later, the pair built a nest and tried to hatch a rock. Conservative groups, such as Focus on the Family, objected to the book, saying it indoctrinated children into accepting same-sex marriage. Most librarians kept the book on their shelves, allowing children to delight in a true-life story. And you know, that's the sad thing about people who try to censor this type of thing. This is a real thing that happened. This is a real thing that happened to real animals, regardless of the sex of the animals. This is a true story and a very uplifting story. You know, to try and turn that into it being a message promoting whatever you think is wrong, it's just ridiculous. All right, here's another book. You'll know this one. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Yes.
Judy Blume, the woman who invented American adolescence, has had several run-ins with would-be censors, most notably with her 1970 work, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. The book follows Margaret, daughter of a Jewish father and a Christian mother, in her quest to find religion. In addition to that struggle, she goes through puberty with all the awkward sexual complications that entails. The candid storytelling, especially with regards to menstruation, angered a lot of parents, leading some libraries to pull the book. Asked about it later, Bloom said, "A woman called me on the phone and asked if I had written, 'Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.' When I said yes, she called me a communist and hung up." Well, there you
what
go.
does communism have to do with that? Oh man, there's stupid people out there. Nothing wrong with it. It's natural. It's biology, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Nowadays, you see lots of commercials on TV. You know, women and how they're, you know,
Oh, people are menstruating left and right now.
I know, it's everywhere.
They should
but
be.
there's no shame to it, right? I mean, it's a fact of life, and hey.
Well, it's no longer the devil's curse, people. It's actually a real biological thing that happens to women.
Yeah, exactly.
God.
I know.
All right.
I know. People need to get some sort of maturity here.
Yeah, well, wouldn't that be nice? We
Yeah.
wouldn't have a show if people
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
thought the way they were supposed to.
You're right.
All right, here's another book, The Witches. The Witches tells of a young boy left in the care of his grandmother after his parents die. She teaches him about witches. The boy discovers a group of them, and they turn him into a mouse. It's then up to him and his grandmother to save the children of England from the witches' attack. Critics accuse Dahl of misogyny for his description of the witches, and several British libraries excluded the book. Dahl's preface, ostensibly aimed to combat such accusations, didn't help much. "I do not wish to speak badly about women. Most women are lovely, but the fact remains that all witches are women." You know why? Because men witches are warlocks.
Oh.
They have their own term. All right, our next book, everyone's heard of this one. Where's Waldo?
Oh yeah.
Where's Waldo, the goofy Catch 'Em If You Can children's book, was among the top 100 banned books during the 1990s. If you buy the book now, you won't see the reason, but the original printing of the first book in the series included a woman with one uncovered breast. Extremely small and relatively unnoticeable, the breast was spotted by crafty old censors who pored over every inch with a magnifying glass. She could be found hanging out at the beach with a nipple the size of a pinhead. A kid puts cold ice cream on her back, causing her to leap up and expose herself. In subsequent editions, her bikini was left tied on, a self-censorship on the part of the publishers. So there you go. Some Where's Waldo trivia for you. The nipple slip that caused a book banning. And of course, we all know how popular Where's Waldo is. I don't remember hearing about that, though.
No, I don't.
I don't. But that's very interesting. Perhaps by the time we caught wind of it, the banning had already taken place and they had already changed it. Awesome. Well, all right, so focus on the family. If you're listening, you're going to love this book, and as I'm sure you did, it's called Daddy's Roommate. Michael Wilhoit was a prominent gay cartoonist for years before he decided to write his first children's book, a story of a child and his parents. The adults argue about petty things, take care of their son, and seem to have a perfectly fine relationship. The controversy stemmed from the roommate being a man. The book became the most frequently banned children's book in U.S. history. The book was even brought up in the U.S. Senate, which voted to withhold funding from any school which taught homosexual acceptance through books like Daddy's Roommate. Some regular citizens even went so far as to check out the book from their local library and then refused to return it. The publisher offered to give free books to any library that asked. All right, here's our next book, Brown Bear, What Do You See? Sounds like a children's book.
Yeah.
Brown Bear, What Do You See? Is a simple book written for toddlers designed to help them identify colors and objects. In it, the narrator asks different animals about the things they can see and illustrates their responses. With no political agenda and without even a narrative, it must seem strange that Texas voted to strike the book from the state's curriculum. Board of Education member Pat Hardy justified the decision by pointing to the author's other book, Ethical Marxism. The categorical imperative of liberation. However, a modicum of research would have easily shown Texas lawmakers that Brown Bear author Bill Martin did not write that book. He simply shared his name with a Chicago professor who was the real author. In fact, Ethical Marxism was first published in 2008. Brown Bear's Bill Martin had died in 2004. Hardy later claimed she was just listening to the advice of Terry Leo, another board member who admitted she hadn't checked which Bill Martin had written the offending book. So there you go. Banned for nothing. Just because this guy had written another book, or they thought he had written another book that had, again, communist message to it. So there you go. All right. And we're at our last book, and this is not the same Sylvester, so there's no need. But I'm sure this might spark another cartoon fact from Jeff. If it does, that's fine. We'll take it. This one was called Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. Written in 1970 by William Steig, Sylvester and the Magic Pebble follows a donkey named Sylvester and the misadventures that come after he finds a pebble that grants wishes. The characters are all animals, and several have different professions, but one specific job attracted a political firestorm. In the story, the police officers of the fictional town are depicted as pigs, which some people felt reinforced prejudices and misconceptions. Various characters besides officers were also pigs. In fact, Sylvester's friend and neighbor is a pig and appears on the book's cover. Yet critics insisted the pig police sent an anti-authority message. So that brings us to the end of this episode of The Meltdown. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. I learned a couple things, actually. And anyway, next week we're gonna take a look at addictions, nasty addictions. What are you addicted to? Are you addicted to things you don't even realize you're addicted to? And are there such things as good addictions? Well, we'll find out, damn it, on next week's episode of The Meltdown. Until then, I'm Norm.
And I'm Jeff.
Catch you later.
See you later.